All right, we have the opportunity to take a look at a very interesting piece of firearms history here. This is a HAC-7C, Holloway Arms Company, Model 7. This one's the carbine, so HAC-7C. Now, why is this such an interesting piece of history? This one was made in 1983, 1984. Only about 350 of them or 300 of them were ever made, depending on where you do your research. Bob Holloway, the inventor, was a Green Beret in Vietnam. He also fought with the Rhodesian military, and when he sat down to build this rifle, he took his experiences with all the battle rifles of the time and combined the elements that he found most important into this rifle. Unfortunately, the company didn't last very long, so not very many people know about this one. I hope I can do it justice over the research I've done, giving you a tour of this one. We'll take it apart and we'll see some of the innovative things and why this one is such an interesting piece of history. Well, I've still got the camera up where we can take a good look at it. Let's take a look at some of the major components. First off, it's mag release. It's here on the bottom, similar to an AK, where you can remove it from either side very easily. So basically ambidextrous. It uses an AR-10 magazine with a modification, this little notch in the back. And yes, that does mean that it'll work with the new Magpul P-Mags in 308. Of course, to get it to insert completely, you'd have to put that little notch in the back, but a very easy modification for a solid mag for this rifle. At the time, the aluminum waffle AR-10 mags were available. They're pretty expensive these days, but again, you have a inexpensive option for it. The charging handle is on the left. It's up like a Galil, so that you can easily get it from both sides and easy to operate. It does not reciprocate, if I remember correctly. We've got fire controls similar to an M16 or AR. Grip similar to an AR. Trigger housing is similar to an AR. The stock is pretty cool. It has this notch in the back, so you bring it down. It hinges closed with no sort of lock, but it's not going anywhere. Now to open it, just swing it back and it locks into place. Really ingenious design, super strong, and folds over to the right. So if you're going to sling this, that doesn't get in your way. It's pretty smooth on this side. Let's get down into it and take a look at some of the other parts with the camera a little closer. Sights are similar to maybe an AR-180. Front sight similar to an AR. Rear sight similar, peep sight with two peeps, same focal plane. They've got these wings to protect them. Much more, less height over the barrel. So let's take a look at the manual of arms. To charge the bolt. Got the charging handle up here on the top like we talked about. We've got the selector here on the side. And it's really intuitive with a shooting grip. Pull down for fire. Flip up for safety. Now because they made a mirror image left-handed model, you can get the selector on this side, or you could just put the selector on that side if you wanted to. It comes down with two takedown pins, the same as an AR, one here and one here. To take it down, you need one tool, a 308 round. Push in on the pin, and it opens just like an AR. Only there's no recoil buffer on the back, so the stock is able to fold completely. Let's take a look at the rest of it. You can push this pin in. Now the trigger is supposedly like an M1 Garand. I'm going to have to trust people on that one since it's been a while since I've looked at a Garand. But we've got the two sears and the hammer. But its overall configuration is very much like an AR as far as its magwell and the configuration. Now one big difference between this receiver and a standard AR lower receiver or forged receiver, the properties of 7570 aluminum, T6 aluminum, are that when you forge an aluminum lower, you actually lose some strength. Some people say 40% of the strength. When you extrude, which this is an extruded aluminum, think of a Play-Doh machine. When you extrude the aluminum, you can actually add tensile strength and add hardness or strength to the aluminum. This was done with one of the first CNC firearms, completely computer controlled. So they were able to gain a lot of strength, and this is, according to the literature, about as strong as mild steel. So very strong receiver, even though it looks a lot like an AR receiver. Now the upper here is a little different than anything else we've taken a look at. So we can pull back on the carrier, and pull out the bolt here, We can see some elements of an AK here. We can see elements of M16 here. We can even see elements of the M60. So we've got the spring at the top. We've got a bolt like an M60. It comes apart like an M16 with the pin, a retained pin here for the firing pin. Just use the rim of the brass to pull up on that retaining pin, and the firing pin will drop out. If I pull it out all the way, there we go. And you can see that's very much like an M16 firing pin. However, the pin is retained, which is great for in the field. You've got the same cam and everything to take the rest of the bolt apart. However, it's more like an M60 when you take a look here. A lot easier to create, a lot easier to produce than the 16, whatever the AR has. Now you'll notice this little thing. This is kind of neat, and something that came along, a development that came along after they built it. You can see that it fits in here so that it's kind of locked into place, but you can see when the bolt unlocks how there's a difference in the underside height. That has to do with when the magazine is sitting here under the bolt. If this piece wasn't here, let's take it out, like I imagine the first models were, or the first prototypes probably were, they might hit the round there and cause it to go up or down or not feed well. So this little device was created to keep maintain a consistent height on the rounds that might be left in the magazine. So I don't know if that's super innovative, but interesting little facet of the design. Then we've got again the cam and everything that is reminiscent of the M16. We've got a gas piston, looks a heck of a lot like an SKS or an AR-15. Then we've got the long piston here. So unlike the AK where we've got a bolt carrier with the long piston, this one has a short piston. And that's important because that's another element of the design. So we can see when the carrier is in place, there's still quite a bit of gap here between the gas block and the piston. Let's take a look at that. Remove the hand guards, we go back to our tool, which is the rim of the 308 case, and this screw here is designed to work with it. So now we can see that the gas piston is way back here, and then we've got this sort of lead gas tube here. So that's similar to an AR-15, it's similar to an AK, but why the difference? Well, from what I've been told from the research, is that there's pressure that's created as the round goes off. It starts to go, we know that the round's going to be ignited by the primer. The powder starts to burn, it creates pressure, pushes the bullet down the barrel. As that bullet starts to move, pressure gets created just, because that bullet's creating pressure here just with the outside air. So this is to bleed some of that pressure in order to basically time the gun so that you can have just a moment of dwell between when that round starts moving and pressure starts to be applied, so that this doesn't break and open the chamber. This is to help maintain pressure till the bullet reaches here, so that the actual gas pressure will blow the piston or the carrier back. I'm not going to pretend to know every facet of that, but it's interesting nonetheless to see how he was able to take some various elements and engineer exactly what he wanted. On this design, there's a separate gas shutoff and regulator. So if you want to change for ammo, 308 ammo can be pretty tricky. You can switch to 4 different size gas positions here by just pulling this part out and twisting it. And it's probably not showing up real well because I got a big hand. But the shutoff is separate. So instead of having one stage of your gas regulator being off, it's a separate off. So if you're going to launch a grenade or run with a suppressor, again, you can use just your fingers because it's not that hard, or the brass case to turn your gas on or off. Let's take a look, since we're up here, at the muzzle device. It's actually tuned for either left or right-handed people, and right now it's set up for a right-handed person, where of the 3 slots in the top, it's angled off to the side, similar to an AK. You would switch that if you were left-handed, and it's got the 2 notches here for laying across barbed wire as an improvised wire cutter. You would just lay this muzzle across the barbed wire and use the bullet to break the wire. So those are some interesting facets of it. I wish I could tell you more about it. It's a super interesting rifle. Of all the rifles I've looked at, this is definitely one of the most interesting, well thought out, and impressive rifles I've seen in a while. Unfortunately, it just didn't have a lifespan. Perhaps, we've heard that Bob Holloway is still around. Perhaps he'll work with someone, a current manufacturer, and we'll see something similar to this again. We'll put it back together now. We want to thank our friends Tucson Guns who have this one for sale, so if you are interested you can contact them. With the belt buckle which came with it, serialized number 86, just like the rifle it came with.
The guys and gals of GunWebsites.com encourage you to take a CCW class every year, practice at least once a month, and carry every day. Thanks for watching GunWebsites.com.